I was 70 years old when I broke every vow I'd ever made to God. For 52 years, I'd been Sister Margaret, devoted, obedient, pure. I'd never questioned my calling, never doubted my path. Until Dr. Elena Rousseau walked into our convent's infirmary with those knowing eyes and that devastating smile. She was there to treat our aging sisters, but what she awakened in me was something I thought I'd buried at 18, something forbidden, dangerous, and impossibly alive. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. They never said anything about teaching an old nun how to feel again. The first time I saw Elena, I was kneeling in the chapel at dawn, my arthritic knees screaming against the cold stone floor. I'd learned to ignore pain decades ago. It was just another form of prayer, another offering to God. But when the heavy oak doors creaked open and she walked in, silhouetted against the rising sun, I felt a different kind of ache entirely. She didn't genuflect, didn't bow her head. She simply stood there, taking in the vaulted ceilings and stained glass windows with the analytical gaze of someone who saw beauty but didn't worship it. Her silver-streaked dark hair was pulled back in a loose twist, and she wore a burgundy blazer over dark jeans, practical, elegant, entirely out of place in our world of habits and humility. Sister Margaret? Her voice was low, accented with something European I couldn't quite place, French perhaps, or Italian. I rose slowly, my joints protesting, and turned to face her. Up close she was even more striking, sharp cheekbones, olive skin, and eyes the color of amber honey. 50-something, I guessed, maybe younger. It had been so long since I'd really looked at anyone that way. Dr. Rousseau, I presume? Elena, please. She extended her hand, and when I took it, her grip was firm and warm. She held on just a moment longer than necessary, her thumb brushing against my knuckles. Mother Superior said you'd show me around the infirmary. I pulled my hand back, tucking it into my sleeve. Of course, this way. As I led her through the cloisters, I was acutely aware of her presence beside me. The click of her boots on stone, the subtle scent of her perfume, something woody and sophisticated that made our incense seem primitive by comparison. She asked questions about the building's history, about our daily routines, about the 23 elderly sisters currently in our care. Her interest seemed genuine, not the polite small talk I'd grown accustomed to from visiting clergy. The infirmary occupied the eastern wing, a series of converted cells with medical equipment that looked increasingly obsolete. Sister Catherine, our usual nurse, had suffered a stroke 3 weeks ago. We'd been managing, but barely. "How long have you been here?" Elena asked, running her finger along a dusty cabinet. 52 years. She turned to look at me, really look at me, and I felt exposed in a way I hadn't since I was a girl. "That's remarkable. You must have been very young when you took your vows." 18. I busied myself straightening already straight supplies. It was different then. Families encouraged it. "And now? Do you ever regret it?" The question was invasive, inappropriate even, but something in her tone made it feel like genuine curiosity rather than judgment. I met her gaze. "I've never allowed myself to consider that question, Dr. Rousseau." "Elena," she corrected again, moving closer. "And maybe it's time you did." Elena came 3 times a week, and slowly, imperceptibly, my world began to shift. It started with small things. She'd bring coffee in a thermos. Real coffee, not the watery instant we served in the refectory. The first time she offered me a cup, I hesitated. "It's just coffee, Margaret." She dropped the sister after the first week, and I hadn't corrected her. Not a mortal sin. I took the cup. It was still hot, rich and dark and perfect. I'd forgotten coffee could taste like anything other than obligation. "Good?" She watched me over the rim of her own cup, a small smile playing at her lips. "Sinfully good," I said, and then blushed at my own choice of words. Her smile widened. "I won't tell if you won't." These moments accumulated like sediment, building into something I couldn't name. She'd brush past me in the narrow infirmary hallway, and I'd feel the warmth of her body like a brand. She'd laugh at something I said, me, who hadn't told a joke in decades, and the sound would lodge somewhere in my chest, bright and painful. She'd look at me with those honey-colored eyes, and I'd forget how to breathe. I tried to pray it away. Spent extra hours in the chapel, my forehead pressed against clasped hands, begging God to remove this feeling, this wanting. But Elena was always there when I emerged, waiting with that knowing smile, as if she could see right through my wimple to the chaos underneath. One afternoon, while checking on Sister Agnes, Elena asked me to help her lift the elderly nun to change her bedding. As we worked together, our hands met beneath the sheet, and Elena's fingers curled around mine, squeezing gently. It lasted only a second, but it was deliberate, intentional. I pulled away, flustered. There's Vespers. Margaret. She said my name like a prayer, or maybe a promise. It's okay to want things, to feel things. You're not just a nun, you're a woman. I took vows, I whispered, though whether I was reminding her or myself, I wasn't sure. Vows you made when you were barely more than a child, before you knew what you were giving up. She stepped closer, and I could see gold flecks in her irises. Have you ever even been kissed? The question hung between us like incense smoke. The truth was so pathetic I could barely voice it. Once, I was 17, a boy from the village. It was unpleasant. Unpleasant, Elena repeated, and something flickered across her face. Pity, perhaps, or anger on my behalf. Margaret, you've lived 70 years and only know one unpleasant kiss. Doesn't that seem like a waste? It did. God help me, it did. The night it happened, I couldn't sleep. I had lain in my narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, Elena's words circling my mind like birds of prey. At 2 a.m, I gave up and went to the chapel, seeking the comfort of familiar rituals. But even there, on my knees before the altar, I couldn't find peace. I heard her before I saw her, soft footsteps on stone. She sat beside me on the pew, close enough that our shoulders touched. She didn't speak, just sat there in the darkness, breathing quietly. I can't stop thinking about you, I finally said, the confession tearing out of me. It's wrong, it's sinful, but I can't stop. Why is it wrong? Her voice was gentle. To care for someone, to want connection, because of what I am, what I promised to be. What if those promises were made by someone who didn't know any better? What if the girl who made them never had a chance to become the woman sitting here now? I turned to look at her, and in the candlelight she was beautiful in a way that made my heart physically ache. I'm 70 years old, Elena, too old for this, too old to start questioning everything. You're not too old to be happy. She reached up and slowly, giving me every chance to stop her, unpinned my wimple. My short gray hair, unseen by anyone but my sisters for decades, was exposed. I should have felt shame. Instead, I felt free. What if I don't know how to be happy? I whispered. Then I'll teach you. She cupped my face in her hands, her thumbs stroking my cheeks. If you'll let me. Elena, I don't think, she murmured. For once in your life, Margaret, don't think. Just feel. When she kissed me, it was nothing like that fumbling moment with the village boy 53 years ago. This was soft and sure, patient and passionate, all at once. Her lips were warm, and she tasted like coffee, and something sweet I couldn't name. I made a sound, half sob, half sigh, and she gathered me closer, one hand sliding into my hair, the other resting against my racing heart. When we finally broke apart, I was crying. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to leave. This is all I've ever known. Then don't decide tonight. Just be here with me. Just this. She kissed me again, softer this time. We'll figure out the rest. We stayed in that chapel until dawn, sometimes kissing, sometimes just holding each other, sometimes talking about everything and nothing. She told me about her life, a marriage that ended badly, a career that took her around the world, the loneliness of hotel rooms and temporary assignments. I told her about the girl I'd been, the dreams I'd buried, the life I'd never lived. "Do you love God?" she asked as the first light crept through the stained glass. I thought about it honestly. I don't know anymore. Maybe I never did. Maybe I just loved the safety of it, the certainty. And now? Now I think I might love you. The words felt like jumping off a cliff. Is that insane? Probably, she smiled, but I think I might love you too. The weeks that followed were agony and ecstasy in equal measure. Elena and I stole moments together, in the infirmary, in the garden after Compline, once daringly in her car parked behind the cemetery. Each touch, each kiss, each whispered conversation pulled me further from the life I'd known and closer to something terrifying and wonderful. But secrets have weight, and ours grew heavier each day. I became distracted during prayers, missed my duties, jumped at every sound. Sister Josephine, who'd known me for 40 years, cornered me in the library one afternoon. "You're different," she said, her rheumy eyes sharp with concern. "Are you ill?" "No, I couldn't finish the lie. We'd lived together too long." "It's the doctor, isn't it?" She didn't sound shocked, just sad. "I've seen how you look at her, how she looks at you." My heart stopped. "Sister, She held up a gnarled hand. "I'm not going to tell Mother Superior. But Margaret, you need to decide. This half-life you're living, it's not fair to anyone. Not to the order, not to her, and certainly not to yourself." She was right. I knew she was right. But the thought of leaving, of walking away from 52 years, from my sisters, from the only identity I'd ever had, was paralyzing. That night, I told Elena what Sister Josephine had said. We were in her car, parked overlooking the valley, the lights of the town below twinkling like fallen stars. "She's right," Elena said quietly. "I've been selfish, pulling you into this without thinking about what it would cost you." "Don't." I grabbed her hand. "Don't you dare take this back. You're the only real thing that's happened to me in 52 years. But what kind of life can we have, Margaret? I'm just a traveling doctor. I have an assignment in Portugal starting next month. I'll be gone for 6 months, maybe longer." She looked at me, pain etched in every line of her face. "I can't ask you to leave everything for something so uncertain." "What if I want uncertain?" The word surprised me as much as her. What if I'm tired of safe and certain and decided? What if I want messy and complicated and real? "Are you saying—" "I'm saying I'll go with you. To Portugal, wherever." My voice shook but didn't break. "I'm saying that for 52 years I've been Sister Margaret, and I don't even know who Margaret is without the sister part. And I want to find out, with you." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "It won't be easy. You'll lose your home, your community, maybe even your faith." "I know." And I did. The grief of it sat like a stone in my chest. But if I stay, I'll lose myself. And I think I've already lost most of my faith. Maybe I've been losing it for years and just didn't notice." "When?" she asked. "When would you leave?" I thought about the sisters I'd served with for decades, about the routines that had shaped every day of my adult life, about the God I'd tried so hard to love. And then I thought about Elena's kiss, about coffee that tasted like rebellion, about the possibility of discovering who I could be without walls around me. "Tomorrow," I said. "I'll leave tomorrow." I left the convent on a Tuesday morning carrying nothing but a small suitcase and 52 years of memories. Mother Superior tried to talk me out of it. Some sisters cried. Sister Josephine hugged me and whispered, "Be happy. That's your new vow." Elena was waiting by her car, silver hair catching the morning sun, and when she saw me, she smiled that devastating smile that had started all of this. "Ready?" she asked. I looked back at the convent one last time, those walls that had protected me and imprisoned me in equal measure. Then I looked at Elena, at the uncertain, terrifying, beautiful future she represented. I'm ready. What would you do? Could you walk away from everything you've known for a chance at real love? Have you ever made a choice that changed your life forever? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one. Part 2 coming soon. Should Margaret and Elena's story continue? Let me know.